Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. This movie is directed by Ryan Coogler, who previously directed Fruitvale Station, the previous Black Panther, and Creed. This movie stars Leticia Wright, Tenoch Huerta, and Angela Bassett. Now, if you'll excuse me, this review has a little visitor, another Panther, if you will, so he's going to be joining us. Now, the plot of this movie is T'Challa, the Black Panther of Wakanda, has died. And within a year, Wakanda as a nation, but also T'Challa's family must band together, not only to be there for each other, to accept this huge loss, but now there's a new threat on the horizon, another hidden group of people that threaten the existence of Wakanda and the world. Now, going into this movie, I was looking forward to it because I enjoyed the previous Black Panther. However, with the recent events of Chadwick Boseman's passing, I didn't want this movie to just be a 2-hour grieving fest. I didn't just want to be upset. I didn't want everybody sobbing and be emotional for 2 hours. I wanted this to be a movie that tried to push on, tried to, accept the loss, but make something of it, not just be a 2-hour film dedicated to Chadwick Boseman. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just feel like if you're going to make a motion picture as part of the MCU, you've got to kind of get your stuff together and make this a movie that people that weren't so attached to Chadwick Boseman or the Black Panther character can enjoy or can watch and be entertained by. And having seen the movie, we got that. And I'm glad we did. There were parts and there were moments that had me going, okay, if Chadwick Boseman had not passed on, that I could tell this part of the movie would have been different, or the main character would have changed, and this character would have been sidelined, or what have you. So I can tell that things would have been different. But for what they had to work with, just like in Fast and Furious 7, I'm glad we got what we got. So let me start with the acting in this movie. The main characters were good. Leticia Wright as Shory, this younger sister of T'Challa, and a woman who is essentially struggling with her intelligence versus her emotions, her smarts and her brain and her mind, and her grieving and her heart. And I liked that aspect of the movie because she's so brilliant that she sometimes struggles with, what her mind is capable of doing and what she herself is willing to get herself to do. And so I liked that aspect of the movie, that push and pull, that battle that's going on within her. You have Tenoch Huerta as Namor. He's really good. He was really good. There were a couple moments, for example, in this film, where you have a character that's been around for a long time and has a lifestyle of doing things a certain way, like I've referenced in the Transporter movie or Eternals, where you have a character that's been around a long time and they're set in their ways, they're doing things how they've been doing it for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and then something recent happens, a la the timeline of the movie, and that's the trigger. That's the thing that causes them to go, okay, I'm done. I'm going to be bad. Or I'm going to make this rash decision that's going to change the way I see everything. It's like, that was the only problem I had with that character. But as far as the actor portraying him, his delivery, his point of view, I was like, okay, I can get behind this character. I enjoy him. He was a formidable opponent. And then we have Angela Bassett as Ramonda, as the mom of T'Challa, the Black Panther, and the mom of Shory. And her, like another character I'm going to talk about, I'm glad she was given more screen time and more to do here. Because with T'Challa out of the picture, you kind of have to rely on the other side characters to make up for the absence. Well, Angela Bassett was really good as the grieving mother, trying to steer her surviving kid in the right direction of what to do, the right way. But also, you get to share in her grief. You get to see where Ramonda, the Queen Mother of Wakanda, is coming from. Now, there are a lot of people that are saying that she should be nominated for an Oscar, that she was great, she was brilliant. And I agree, in 2 scenes, she was fantastic. But I don't necessarily think she should be nominated for an Oscar just because she gets emotional and yells in 1 scene. Because to me, a nomination like that requires more than just 1 scene like that. If she was, maybe grieving and she was, going crazy, or she was like that throughout the movie and she was totally unlike anything we've seen her in before or previously in Black Panther, sure, nominate her all you want. But in this 1 scene where she just has had enough and she's just laying it out on certain people in the movie, it's a really good scene, but an Oscar nomination, that's a little too much. Now, you have the character of M'Baku, played by... Oh, it's gonna bug me. I'm gonna remember it in like 5 seconds, but I'm forgetting it now. He was in Us. He was in the previous Black Panther. He was good. I wish they had done more with that character. Here, he was sidelined. He was more of like a support character, a character to kind of give Shory wisdom and kind of, be her rock whenever she needs guidance or advice. I really like that character. I just wish they did more with him. And then you have another character from the previous film. I'm not going to spoil if you don't know who it is. I'll just say he was the liaison to America. He was part of, the authorities in America. And I get it. He was brought over because he was in the first movie, but I feel like he was pointless in this. They could have had another character or another means of communicating with the United States. But, again, he was in the first one. He's in this. Okay, but they could have left him out and it would have been totally fine. Now, let me get on with some issues I had with the film. Yes, along with the positive, there comes negative. So this movie is about 2 hours, 40 minutes long, which is a very long movie. And I feel like there were certain scenes where Ryan Coogler is a good storyteller. He did a really good job in Black Panther, and with the action scenes he was given to film, they were fine. If you look back at him now, some of the CGI's, but his action scenes are very secluded, and they're very minimal. They don't take place in huge areas. Action scenes are not his best strong suit. Because in this film, just like in the previous one, there's a car chase. But it seemingly takes place on one street. It's a very brief car scene, and it's just not the best. Considering what we've seen previously in MCU movies, this was not the finest action sequences we've seen. Also, Ryan Coogler doesn't really follow the rule of action scenes. It's a rule of 3, where every action scene, there's 3 fight scenes. Beginning, middle, and the end. And each action scene has to supersede the one that comes before it. Here, he doesn't do that. He's got a car chase scene with a cool fight scene on a bridge. Then he has a really cool attack on Wakanda scene. And then he has the final battle at the end. And the final battle, it's important, but it's not as grandiose. It's not as bombastic. It's not as huge as the second fight scene. And so he kind of missteps there. Also, this movie is so long, but so many moments feel rushed. Because this movie is about drama, grief, and sadness, there are moments that Ryan Coogler doesn't give to resonate. When somebody says a very powerful line, or even a comedic line, he doesn't give that line time to sink into the audience. It's like a character will say something, and he'll be like, and that's why I went to the store. Boom, next scene, right away. And it's like, wait, even the scene where the Black Panther finally does show up, there's a scene that should be more important than it was, where you have a character and that iconic scene where their mask appears on their face and covers, the helmet covers their face, cuts away in the middle of that. Or there's a scene where a character's saying something funny or saying something dramatic, and it just, we get to see, Okoye and this one character finally on screen together, but their scene is very brief. And so the pacing is what I had issue with. There are also scenes that had me scratching my head as far as what characters are able to do, how fast they're able to get there, and how much knowledge characters have of certain things. Because Namor's home world is this secret place that no one's been able to track or locate. And yet, certain things happen where, oh, just anyone can get there now? Same thing with Wakanda. It's like, is it secret? Is it not secret? How secluded, how safe are these people when people can just access it whenever they want? So that's off-putting as well. Also, there's an editing choice in the third act where the Black Panther goes to the ethereal realm for advice, for knowledge, for guidance. And in this world, they see a certain character. But then later in the movie, when they're becoming who they're meant to be, when they're reflecting on the choices they should make going forward, when you think they're going to think back to that experience they had, they don't. They think of another character, it was in a different location, and it's just the continuity was off. And I was just left thinking that this movie is good, but it could have been better. I almost felt like they had a movie set in stone, written up for Chadwick Boseman. And then he unfortunately passed away. So then they had to do some rewrites. Certain things they changed, others they didn't. And you can tell, just like Fast and Furious 7, you can tell there's an absence there, and you can tell that the director, the producers, the actors did what they could to try to course correct and fix that. Now, I will say that this film does feel like an MCU movie, where you had things that came before it, you had it set the stage for where we are now, but also you were leaning towards the future. And that's another thing I had with this movie, is that it feels kind of rushed in the sense that it was setting up for things in the future. And maybe it shouldn't have, because I feel like Phase 4, a lot of people were saying it's about grief, it's about loss. And yes, it is, but I feel like that's a very blanket statement because all of the phases have had grief and loss in them. I would say this phase is more about passing the torch, preparing the next generation to take over when the OGs, the adults, the people we know, the established characters, are no longer in the picture. And that's what this film seemed to do, is it seemed to set up and kind of rush for things to come next. And when your movie's 2 hours, 45 minutes long, you shouldn't be rushing anything. But aside from that, the comedy is here, the soundtrack I really enjoyed, and the emotional moments were there, and they were impactful. You get a 10-minute scene at the beginning of the movie, you get a nice scene at the end of the film, and you get a mid-credit scene that had me emotional. There's no post-credit scene. It's a mid-credit scene. So, because we got a sequel to Black Panther like everyone wanted, and they had to course correct, like I said, they had to change some things because of Chadwick Boseman's loss. They did what they could. And so because of that, I'm going to give Wakanda Forever a B-. It was good in some aspects, but they should have taken their time or done things better in others. So, until next time, guys. See ya. Kitty, say goodbye to the people.